When 2010 began, it was straight chaos in the WWE. John Cena had just lost the title to a rookie Sheamus. For the first time in 4 years, Batista was a heel and was going crazy. The Undertaker was in the middle of his final full-time run and was World Heavyweight Champion. Bret Hart was back, DX was still there, Legacy was there, Edge was dead, or was he? The roster was absolutely stacked, but nobody had any idea on what the hell was gonna go down at WrestleMania 26. But little do we know that the company was actually cooking behind the scenes. Little do we know that so many of the storylines in front of us were all gonna be intertwined, and that from January to April, we were gonna get a classic Road to WrestleMania. The main character of this Road to WrestleMania was Shawn Michaels. After challenging Taker to a WrestleMania rematch at the 2009 Slammy, Shawn Michaels was ready to risk it all for that match. Despite being tag team champions with his best friend Triple H, despite overcoming the recession, it did not matter. All he wanted was that match with The Undertaker. So when Taker declined his challenge to his face, HBK only wanted it that much more. When the 2010 Rumble went down in January, it seemed like half of the roster's legacy was on the line. And at the Rumble, shit hit the fan. HBK went God mode. He said fuck DX, he told his best friend to suck it. He hit his homie with the sweet chin music because to him at that point, defeating the streak was more important than anything. Shawn survived the match for 30 minutes and had 6 eliminations. The old man dream was about to come true until Batista ruined everything. Shawn snapped, he cried, he complained, he killed the referee for no reason, but it didn't matter. He lost the match. Meanwhile, it wasn't Cena, it wasn't Batista, it wasn't Triple H, it wasn't Jericho. Edge came back after being out for 6 months and won the Rumble. And shit, usually the Rumble makes everything clearer, but in 2010 when the Rumble was over, shit made even less sense. Taker was still champion, Sheamus was still champion. Who was Edge gonna take on at Mania? What happens to Cena, Batista, are Triple H and Shawn gonna feud now? Nobody knew what the hell was going on. But that just made us tune in every single week, and the product was so hot and got so exciting during this stretch. But all those questions were going to be answered at the first ever Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. 2 chamber matches were booked, both world titles were on the line, but there was so much more than that. There was Batista, the wild card, who was now a certified piece of shit, but he wasn't even scheduled on the show. He was too busy out here beating up old stroke victims for Vince McMahon. What was he gonna do at Mania? And last but not least, when it came to Shawn Michaels, the man who was the main character of this Road to WrestleMania, he was out of the picture. Between the Rumble and Chamber, Michaels lost his mind trying to get that match with Taker. He had a top 3 midlife crisis of all time. He lost the tag titles with his buddy Triple H. He lost the Elimination Chamber qualifying match in 5 minutes, so he wasn't even scheduled for the event. And before you knew it, he had fully become Gollum, and his precious was that match with Taker, but it was nowhere to be found. He was so gone off the deep end, he even resorted to threatening poor Teddy Long, and even Teddy Long couldn't get him a one-on-one match with The Undertaker. He didn't have the match he wanted, his relationship with Triple H was imploding, and the last time we saw Shawn, he simply said, "My career is over." It was Elimination Chamber 2010. Nobody knew where Shawn Michaels was, nobody knew what Batista was gonna do, nobody knew who was walking out champion. This show ended up being the most bought secondary pay-per-view in 2 years. No other secondary pay-per-view had touched over 285,000 buys since February of 2008. But this Road to WrestleMania had the fans locked in. Elimination Chamber 2010 definitely deserves a look back at, and let's get into it. The show begins with pyro going off, and with 17,000 in the arena, we were off to the races. And I'm gonna be honest with you fellas right off the bat, this is not some classic show. This ain't a show filled with bangers. This was a 2-match show through and through. But since those 2 chamber matches took up 70% of the show and set up Mania perfectly, it makes sense why right here. The show begins the best way it could have, the chamber match for the WWE Championship. Cena comes out and the crowd goes crazy. This was definitely a pro Cena crowd, and the franchise got a loud ass pop. Orange Cena was out here, the former champion, and he was the first person locked in the pod. Next up was Ted DiBiase Jr., who was solely in this match just to get used to being in a cage for the second half of his life. Randy Orton pulled up in his hometown, Triple H came out, young Kofi Kingston, who had so much trauma from last year's match, he had to make sure that Edge wasn't lurking in the shadows, and lastly, the defending champion, Sheamus. The match begins with Kofi and Sheamus, and they do their thing. And what's so fascinating about this match is going into it, the predictions online were relatively simple. Everyone online thought it was a foregone conclusion that either Triple H was walking out champion or Sheamus was walking out champion. And either we were going to get Triple H versus Sheamus at Mania or Triple H versus Michaels. So on the surface, this seemed like a two-man match, right? But this was way more than that. First of all, Kofi Kingston looked like a star in this match. It didn't matter if Triple H came out, Randy Orton came out, Kofi Kingston, as long as he was in the match, he came off as a star. When Triple H came out of his pod looking like the Grim Reaper, looking absolutely terrifying, and he went one-on-one with Sheamus, the crowd ate it up. I genuinely had zero recollection of this feud being that hot, but hey, apparently it was. Apparently the people wanted this match back in 2010. But as Randy came in, as Ted DiBiase came in, every man hit their spot, nobody gets eliminated, it's back and forth, and eventually Legacy links up. They clear the house, they abuse Kofi for a bit, it looks like a hate crime, and the 2/3 of Legacy take over. Everyone is knocked out, everyone is a victim, and there's only one person left to come out of their pod. The countdown begins, and the kids in the crowd start going crazy. Cena's about to be let loose. He looks at the Mania sign, and at this point, even watching it 16 years later, even I was getting amped. You gotta remember, this was peak Cena wins LOL era, but nobody thought he was gonna win this. But that didn't mean he wasn't gonna go off. He comes out of his pod and goes absolutely mental. It's 2-on-1 and it doesn't matter. There are kids yelling like their lives depend on it. He's running around like a madman, killing everyone. Kids are jumping for joy. There's so much energy. And by this point in 2010, I had already become anti-Cena. The older fans on Facebook had already convinced me that he was Hitler. But even when you hated this man, the energy he brought was so noticeable. It was so different, it was unlike anyone else, truly the definition of an ace in professional wrestling. So Cole and Lawler at this point are about to have an orgasm. He was in the match for 30 seconds and already jumping off the top rope, and when he hit Ted with that AA on the chamber floor and you heard that sound, please bring back the old chamber. I don't care how unsafe it is. The match then became Cena vs Randy episode 98, but the first bomb to drop for Mania was the most predictable one. Young Cody Rhodes came out to save the day and threw a lead pipe into the chamber for Ted to use to help out their Lord and Savior Randy Orton. Cena had Randy in the AA, and well, Ted DiBiase Jr. had two choices. And let's just say, as we know, he's not known for making good choices. He hits Randy in the head with a lead pipe, Randy gets AA'd, Ted then hits Cena with the pipe, but proceeds to pin Randy 1, 2, 3. Randy Orton ends up being the first one eliminated by his own son. And the Deuce and Domino had dropped, Legacy was imploding, and Randy Orton vs Ted DiBiase Jr. at WrestleMania was coming very soon. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, Cody Rhodes was hit with that depression. After this, bodies started dropping. Kofi eliminated Ted, Sheamus eliminated Kofi. There were only 3 men left, either Sheamus, Cena, or Triple H were walking into Mania as the champion, and there was a good chance that everybody's online prediction was coming true. Super Cena proceeded to get dominated, and I mean dominated by Sheamus, so much so that usually when Cena got his ass beat like this, it only meant one thing, but surely not, right? Sheamus was about to eliminate Cena, he got him in position for that Celtic cross, but then Triple H sneaks up, low blows Sheamus, takes business into his own hands, pedigree Sheamus, and 1, 2, 3, there will be a new champion. Sheamus takes the first pin of his career, and of course it was to Triple H, but his reign was over, and it's looking like Triple H was all but confirmed to walk out champion. So I remember watching this back in 2010 and I was having such a shitty day. I had a huge grade 6 math test the next day and your boy didn't know anything, and instead of studying, I was illegally streaming this pay-per-view on First Row Sports, if you know you know, and when it came down to Cena and Triple H, even though I kinda knew it would, I was so disappointed. At this point, I didn't like either of them, to be honest. Facebook had convinced me that I hate Cena, and I was never really a Triple H guy, so I was just depressed. I was about to fill a math test tomorrow, and I was cheering Triple H over Cena. Grade 2 me, who watched WrestleMania 22 begging for Cena to win, would have never thought this day would arrive. What the hell had my life come to? But here we were, and as these two got up, I was like, it's fine, Triple H got this. Everyone online seemed to think Triple H was winning, they know more than me, he must win, right? Dog, I shit you not, 30 seconds later, Triple H doesn't even get up. Cena had Triple H in the STF, 30 seconds, not even a minute had passed, and I was just like, wait, what is this? It's fine, it's early, Triple H will fight, he'll get up, we'll hit some pedigrees. No. Super Cena was in the cut, Triple H tapped. Just like that, Triple H, he didn't even get up, he didn't even hit one spine buster. He tapped, and I sat there in front of my 2009 HP computer that probably had 50 viruses with my jaw on the floor. This orange Teletubby looking ass won it all again. Poe, Dipsy, Tinky Winky, Lala, and apparently Johnny. And listen, your boy was 11 years old, and Cena wins LOL suddenly wasn't so fun anymore. You gotta realize, your boy was a chain gang soldier, not a member of C Nation. I didn't know who this Teletubby was anymore. This wasn't 05 Cena, 06 Cena, 07 Cena. This was a clone created by the CIA. So I was just there like, wow, he really won again. Triple H tapped so fast, the chamber got lifted up, and I was like, well, what the hell is happening now? Triple H versus Sheamus is not entitled, okay, but what about this guy? Cena's in the ring, he overcame the odds once again. I don't know why I was surprised. He was champion. Who knew where this was going? And then it happened. Isn't it funny how everything for the most part always comes full circle in life? Music plays in the arena and out comes the devil, I mean Vince McMahon, and I was like, hey, I seen this episode before. He says, John Cena, you're going to WrestleMania. Just as long as you can defend your championship right now against this man. Out comes Batista. Isn't it funny how everything for the most part always comes full circle in life? In 2006, I was the same kid who was legit traumatized, who cried tears when Cena won the chamber and that slimy, disgusting piece of shit Edge ruined everything. But now in 2010, fast forward 4 years, what a time it was to be alive. Now your boy was jumping for joy. Now your boy had tears of happiness coming from his eyes. Not only was Cena about to lose the title, it was gonna be to Batista. Batista was always one of my guys. I always had such a soft spot for him, and now that I was older, now I was getting more mature, kind of. As an 11-year-old, Batista was even more cool. He was edgy, he was evil, he was a swag god, and I was in my era of loving the heels, and he was the biggest heel. Like I said, everything was full circle, and now I was the older kid who wanted the heel to do Cena dirty. He went in there and killed Cena, hit him with the Batista bomb, stood over him with the championship, and 4 years later, there was a whole new generation of fans loving this, and there was a whole new generation of fans who were traumatized by seeing Cena die, and I gotta say, it felt good to be on the other side. What a moment. I really love this moment. Batista got this opportunity in kayfabe because he helped Vince beat up Bret Hart, and if there was anyone on the roster who I would have wanted to come out, take Cena's belt and do this, it would have been Batista hands down, and he did it. He stood over Cena, became champion once again. He was a heel now, he had the new look, he had such a demon attitude. It was perfect in every way, and I never saw this coming. I genuinely did not think this was possible. But just like that, another domino fell for WrestleMania. Cena versus Batista for the title, but this time it was the real deal. 2008 was fun and games. It was now shit was on. And at this point in 2010, trust me, your boy wasn't depressed any longer. Fuck the math test. I don't care if I pass. I don't care if I fail. Batista was champion. Cena lost. I went crazy on Facebook with Cena hate that night. What a time to be alive. And the best part was, the main event was just as important. No way Taker was going to Mania as champion, right? Jericho winning sets up a match against Edge, but is he just going to casually win and beat The Undertaker? Where the hell is Shawn Michaels? Has he lost his smile? Is he under a bridge smoking crack? Like, where is he? Is he okay? Is he going to show up? Let's find out. After an hour or so of an episode of SmackDown, the chamber came back down. Out came Ray, John Morrison, Chris Jericho, and then came the defending champion, The Undertaker. Taker comes out, the lights go out, music hits. It's Taker in his last full-time run. He stepped on the stage, pyro was everywhere, there's flames everywhere. It's like, wait, is Kane coming out? And I think we already know what happens here. Apparently these idiots were cooking a little too much with gasoline because the Undertaker gets lit on fire. The pyro malfunctions and it's so out of control. Taker's coat, hat, and skin are literally on fire. You don't see it on TV. They quickly cut to Ray. All you see is Taker taking his coat off and running to the ring. He no-sells it like only the Undertaker can and just gets into the pod like nothing happened. Mind you, the dead man had suffered first and second degree burns. Over the years, he has mentioned how he could smell his flesh burning. But hey, the show must go on, right? When this happened back in 2010, this video basically went viral. It was all over YouTube. Everyone was talking about it, like, oh my god, The Undertaker almost died. Oh, it's like, everyone was talking about this at school. But yo, what a legend. The fact that he just won in that pod, no-sold it, and then wrestled, what a legend. What I love about this match is it felt like one big love letter to 2009 SmackDown. This felt like the nice little tribute to that era. You know, before Jack Swagger ruined everything in 2010. R-Truth and CM Punk had some insane chemistry to start the match, back and forth off the rip. R-Truth did a senton to the outside for the love of the game. They brawled into the cage. It was all gas, no breaks. And what was so surprising was, unlike the first chamber where they waited till everyone was out for the eliminations to start, here, before anyone else even entered, Punk hit Truth with the GTS and Truth was out. And listen, it's 2010, it's CM Punk, you already know what this means. Somebody give him a mic, and this is a real definition of running it back. Yo, this man tells The Undertaker, who by the way is literally on fire, you better pray your pod opens up last. He tells John Morrison, I'm going to prove to you that your rockstar life will get you nowhere. Straight edge means I'm better than you. Rey Mysterio comes out, and here we go again. It's another one-on-one banger, another mini match inside the match. Punk versus Rey, and it's fast, it's exciting, and the reversals are so on point. 619, no power slam. Shout out to Randy Orton. GTS already? No, Hurricane Rana. These two were on fire. Sorry Taker. But Punk just begins to demolish Rey. And guys, there's just one spot. Yeah, y'all need to see this. Y'all need to hear this.
Oh no, watch out!
That's it, he's dead. He has to be dead. But no, he's not, because they still keep cooking. Because Rey hits his nasty move onto the chamber floor, and just like Punk did to Truth, he gets eliminated before the next entrant, and Rey is grinning ear to ear. Out comes Jericho, and it is 2009 all over again. Jericho and Mysterio, who had a genuine classic in 09, a great feud, they were tweaking. And yo, of course they're gonna tweak in the chamber. I'm telling you, this is a love letter to 2009 SmackDown, and it gets broken into these mini matches, and it was great. Rey was moving like Spider-Man, Jericho was such a demon. Eventually Jomo comes out, and listen, it's Rey, it's Morrison, it's Jericho. What a mix. The idea of these three running a triple threat match makes me want to pull out my PS3 and load up SVR 11 right now. Morrison eventually eliminates Rey. He looks awesome here, should have been world champion in this era eventually, but no, we need Jack Swagger as champion, right? And then, last but not least, out comes the dead man. Who would have ever thought that the final three in the chamber would be Jericho, Morrison, and Taker sharing the ring? He sends Jericho flying into the pod. Poor Jericho is traumatized, he's fearing for his life, so what does he do? He locks himself in the pod. Taker just sends Morrison in there too. Sir, a second plane has hit the towers. Everybody knew this match was going to come down to Jericho and Undertaker, but that didn't mean that we didn't have some fun. The one spot that I loved was Morrison was in the ring, Taker was outside of it. Taker grabs him by the throat and does a choke slam from the inside of the ring to out of it, straight out of a video game. John Morrison was out, and then there were two. The best in the world versus the dead man. And right before they got started with the finale, you knew shit was going down because Taker pulled the straps down. So these two have a great back and forth. Taker and Jericho were out here trading submissions, reversals, and it just made me think this would have been a great WrestleMania streak match. Jericho the Rat kept surviving, and yo, what a spot this was. Taker grabs Jericho from inside the ring in the tombstone position, and it's looking like a wrap. But somehow, Jericho goes from tombstone to codebreaker. 1, 2, no, Undertaker kicks out. Everyone's like, huh? Like, what? This is where I tell you that every single online prediction I found was Jericho wins, Jericho wins, Jericho wins. But at this point, it looked very spooky, because if that didn't get it done, what was gonna get it done? HBK was nowhere to be seen. Taker kicked out of a code breaker. His straps were down. What more could Jericho even do? Was Taker really going to WrestleMania with the belt? Taker hits him with the last ride, a vicious last ride, huge last ride. It's never been more over for Jericho. Where is the ref bump? Where is the cameraman bump? Is this really, it's DEFCON 5. And then it happens. Shawn Michaels, after not being on TV for 2 weeks after saying his career was over, rises from the chamber floor like a rat coming out of a sewer. We thought Jericho was the rat. Nah, it was HBK. Taker has no idea. The crowd loses their mind, and bang, sweet chin music. And just like that, everyone knew it. It's happening. It's happening. HBK versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 26. Shawn Michaels is back in the cut in one of the best reveals ever. Comes from below the chamber after all else failed, after he did everything he could to get a match with Taker. He had to take matters into his own hands, and this was it. And what makes this moment so special, more so than the anticipation, the reveal, the build up, the match, all that, he does this and lets Jericho get the 1, 2, 3 and just watches. Mind you, this is Chris Jericho. This is one of his biggest ops, if not his biggest op. This is the same man who was his biggest op. The same man who in kayfabe tried ending his career, who punched his wife for real on pay-per-view, beat his ass over and over. Genuinely one of the biggest ops of his career. But he let that man become world champion because to him, the match with Taker was more important. If that's not beautiful storytelling, I don't know what is. And as Jericho gets the pin and walks away, finessing the win, Edge versus Jericho is set, and with HBK standing over Taker, ladies and gentlemen, they were officially running it back. They were running back arguably the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, and they couldn't have booked it any better. From the slammies to the rumble to the promos to the DX implosion that almost happened to the desperation to this, here we were, and in one night, in 2 chamber matches, 5 WrestleMania matches were set in stone, but none were bigger than this one. And the pay-per-view went off the air as we saw HBK looking down on Taker. Yo, to me, the 2010 Road to WrestleMania was such a magical time. It was so unpredictable, and even the things that were predictable in hindsight, they did so much creative magic to make it happen. They didn't just announce matches and call it a day, like, oh, we're gonna have this match at WrestleMania, guys. You better buy some tickets. Nah, instead, so much was done to make things happen. So many things intertwined, and they really were creative with it. There were callbacks, false flags, betrayals, everything just made sense. Cena eliminated Batista in the Rumble, and you see Batista looking at him as he gets eliminated, and then he gets it back in blood at Chamber. Taker says no, HBK found a way. Batista was involved with a Vince and Bret Hart angle. The downfall of Legacy, and even Ray and CM Punk in here led to a WrestleMania match. Like I said, everything was unpredictable, and even the things that kind of were predictable, they didn't just half-ass